This is the season of grief and gratitude. Name it, and we have to name it, and we have to share that we have so much to grieve. In this time of pandemic, we've been living in an individual and collective state of trauma that has left many of us exhausted, distracted, and unsettled. Nothing feels the same as it did in early March 2020, and nothing looks the same. Not even our faces, covered as they are with life-preserving cloth coverings. Some of us are grieving the loss of loved ones, some recent, others not so recent, but not less painful. Some of us may grieve the loss of our health or the losses that come with our own aging or the aging of a parent, a friend. Life as we knew it has changed, and I think will forever remain changed for us and for our young people. Our different forms of losses are unique to our individual lives, yet truly universal. They've been felt generation after generation. This is a season of grief and gratitude. I'm also aware there is an ancient mourning at this time of year that must be acknowledged and invited to become part of how we, as Unitarian Universalists, hold the complexity of yet another Thanksgiving holiday. The land that I am standing upon, the land that some of us are sitting upon, is sacred land, but stolen land. Fresno sits on the ancestral land of the Mono and the Yokut peoples. These indigenous roots run deep into this valley and through the countless generations who have lived upon this land. As Reverend Norman Broadbent wrote last year, we hear the echoes of prayers to a great Mother Earth. We acknowledge the history of pain, disease, and lost lives. Too many of the Mono and Yokut people's ancestors endured being colonized or enslaved. Though we can't reverse the course of history, neither let us ignore it. Let us look history in the eye and accept its sometimes painful truths. Let us honor the memory of those who died on and for this land, those shackled in bondage, those who lost their sovereignty. We must also acknowledge that theft of land and resources and the displacement of America's indigenous communities are not just sins of the past, but realities of the present. Just call to mind the unfolding protests against the Line 3 oil sands pipeline currently under construction through Minnesota, which threatens polluting the sacred water of the Shell River, a sacred river to the indigenous people of the region. This is a climate crime as it involves oil, and it is in direct violation of U.S. treaty rights with Native American tribes, including the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians and the White Earth Band of Ojibwa, on whose land and rivers the pipeline is being built. Sacred land is still being stolen, this time for oil profits today. We must also acknowledge the killing of America's indigenous people is not just a sin of the past, but the reality of the present. Just call to mind the disproportionate deadly impact this pandemic has had on indigenous people, who often lack access to quality medical care and other resources that impact health and longevity. The link between the massacre of COVID deaths and the massacre at Wounded Knee is direct and unquestionable. The link to the Pilgrims' arrival at Plymouth Rock on November 11th, 1620 is direct and unquestionable. The Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, president of our National Unitarian Universalist Association, wrote last year, "Let us be mindful that many hearts in indigenous communities of New England and across this country ache on Thanksgiving Day every year. In Plymouth, Massachusetts, indigenous people observe the holiday as a day of mourning. This year, 2021, will mark the 51st anniversary of this day of mourning tradition and the 401st anniversary of the landing of the Pilgrims at Plymouth. This is a season of grief and gratitude. Let us enter into this time with awareness, compassion, and a gentle willingness to grow, to deepen, to change.
This is the season of grief and gratitude. My gratitude has intentionality behind it. And that's something that I've learned over time with age and with experience. Gratitude is not something that was instilled in me as a child. I was not reminded to have gratitude or told to be grateful for what we had. I know for my dad, giving to his kids was his redemption song. It was his way of correcting his wrongs of the past, and he would do anything, absolutely anything, to keep us happy. For my mom, well, it was business as usual. She had been working at her job since she was 18, quietly ascending the ranks and eventually becoming the head of payroll at the Department of Water and Power. She was always the breadwinner, and she did it in the most graceful and modest way imaginable. And on most things, she followed my dad's lead. Neither of them were ever going to request gratitude from me or my sister. Gratitude had to be learned in my adult life. I had never even heard my parents say thank you to one another, let alone express gratitude for anything. And honestly, I can't really knock them for that. They both had come from rough upbringings and had made it to the Los Angeles suburbs. Who am I to question their gratitude? That is not my place because I did not walk in their shoes. Gratitude has evolved for me. Gratitude used to be what I felt after hitting back-to-back threes in a pickup game or hitting a personal record on my barbell deadlift. Gratitude has changed for the better. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still learning. The funny thing about gratitude is that it requires you to be present and with the moment. To feel gratitude, you must first learn to focus on what you are grateful for. Well, for those of you that know my son, ever since Tony McDanger came into our lives, it's been hard to focus on anything other than his beautiful smile and his violent tendencies. This makes gratitude a little complex, a little slippery, and a little difficult to grasp. It's not impossible, though. I had a gratitude moment just the other day. Looking out of my kitchen bay window, we can see our fruit trees beginning to lose their leaves. On our peach tree, I watched the multicolored leaves dance and sing in the cool fall wind. But my eyes settled on one specific leaf. This leaf was spinning like a cyclone, while all the other leaves, they were dancing to a different beat. Around and around it went, falling in and out of my sightline as my attention was segmented between a leaf, a dirty pan in the sink, and a toddler Spider-Man gallivanting across the sectional. Eventually, that leaf did fall, and all I could think about were the people outside of my nice, cozy, Hallmark-style home that are silently spinning while everyone else is just preoccupied. Now, trust when I say I am no stranger to getting the spins. We all have those moments. But what I will say, it was in that moment, as I watched that leaf fall, that I realized it's not about the actual act of spinning. It is all about where you land. My gratitude comes from my center and my place of groundedness, my home, my family, our animals, our backyard, the natural sunlight through the front room window, our vibrant plants, and that beautiful bay kitchen window that led me to understand what my gratitude feels like, which is love. My gratitude can always be improved. I can't tell you how many times I've stood in my backyard and instead of just being present and enjoying the sound of swaying palm trees, all I can think about is how I'm going to repair my lawn's gaping mud holes dug by our very gracious two dogs. I think to myself, man, can't you just be grateful that you and your family own a home when there are countless individuals out there with no roof at all? I'm working on it. I am always working on it and will continue to do so because it's worth it. Gratitude is worth it. Thank you.